Hello everyone, I hope everyone is doing well. I created a Notion dashboard for you guys to use whether you're in college, grad school, or even working full time. This is meant to help you guys organize your schedule a little bit better. A few of my friends have mentioned to me that setting something like this felt a bit tedious and overwhelming. So I just wanted to create a free and simple template for you guys to use to remove that friction as well as, save you guys some time. I'll try to keep this video as short and straightforward as possible, and I'll attach the template below for you guys to access. So now let's get to it. Okay, so this is the main dashboard. At the center, we have our overall calendar where you can schedule upcoming events. And then on the left side, we have categories where we have education, habit tracker, meal planner, a financial tracker, and then also archives. And then as you can see, this is Shinchan. So if you guys know, you know. And then I also included on the bottom some of the YouTubers that I use for like Notion, like tutorials and stuff. So these two folks are like really great if you want to learn more. So first, let's go over to education. So in education, I created a mock example as if someone was taking a science related major. So in quick notes, this is more so for you to jot down like some stuff that you want to remember when you open this page. So maybe you have to talk to a TA, do an interview prep, and etc. For resources, this is a place where you can attach like hyperlinks to a site that you usually use on a daily basis. So now let's say that you guys are in a club, whether you guys are the president of a club, a vice president, or an events chair. This is a way you guys organize the organization. So for example, there is a section for you guys to write the to-do list, maybe important links that you guys could use, and then any upcoming events. Like I said, you guys could change this up however you guys want. So maybe you guys want to create a table or a calendar instead. So that's something you guys could do. So now let's go over to the table view. This is where you can insert the classes, the professor, their email, as well as their contact info and their room number. And if we open to the gallery view, we can make this a full page, and you'll notice that we have a section for lecture notes as well as the textbook. So for lecture notes, this is a way for you to jot down any important information that your professor is mentioning. You can put in like formulas, bullet points, or any pictures, and then you'll notice a column here that says comprehension. I organized it in a way that it says low, medium, or high. So maybe you were jotting down some of the notes and you weren't able to really comprehend what you're writing, so you can put this as low, and then you can also write a quick summary about what that lecture note was about. And then this would just give you an indication to go back and review what that lecture was about. Same case for textbooks. So for this one, same idea. You're reading a textbook, you'll write whatever information you would like to. And the same thing with comprehension, you'll write whether it's low, medium, or high, and then you can also write a status saying that yes, I have read this chapter. So the reason why I created this system was because if I'm about to take a final or some sort of an exam, I could come over here and be like, okay, I understand chapter 1 pretty well, so I don't think I need to review it as much, but chapter 2 I might need to take a further look into it. So finally, let's look at the calendar. You'll notice that there are different types of views. Let's go over to the table, and basically what you want to do is go over your syllabus and jot down all the projects, quizzes, exams, homework, labs, all of that sort of stuff over here, as well as their due date. And then you can also select what class it relates to, also the category, right? And then if you are currently working on it, right, you can put it in progress. If it's completed, you could just say that it's done. And then you can also come over to the board, the Kanban style, which also would indicate where it is in terms of the status. The timeline gives you a view throughout the semester where the assignments would be due. And then another cool thing is, let's say for a chem project, I have completed it. I could come over here, press the checkbox, and you'll come over to the completed view, and it would jot down all the assignments, projects, all of those sort of stuff over here to see what you have finished. Okay, so now let's talk about the habit tracker. So for the habit tracker, it's pretty self-explanatory. Anytime I check the boxes here, you'll notice that the percentage goes up. You can make this into 100. And if you press over here, you'll see that there is a formula. I created this like small little toggle over here, which explains exactly how the formula works. And also, if you want to add a habit, you do need to make changes to the formula. and I wrote like a small explanation into how, and that should be it for the habit tracker. Okay, and now let's look at the meal planner. So for the meal planner, I created two sections where one, if you're going to the store and you need to list all your ingredients, you can place them over here and you can cross them off once you have the list. And over here in this section, you'll notice that there's databases for breakfast, lunch, dinner, as well as dessert. And this is the overall view. So if I wanted to insert a specific meal, I'll come over here and press new pages, and then I would title whatever dish it is. And then you can come over here and select which category it is, put the website link, and then you can put in the calories, carbs, fats, proteins, as well as the ingredients and instructions. And once you label what type of meal type it is, it will automatically go into that specific category. So for the finance tracker, you'll notice that there are three databases: the current monthly tracker, the revenue, and then the expenses. And for the revenue and expenses, all you need to do is just input some information. And then what the current monthly tracker does is it gathers all those informations, makes the calculations, and spits them out basically. If you want to know how these three databases work, you can check out the last video where I did create a net result database where it uses relations and rollups. I do not want to explain it here, so I apologize, but I'll show you how you can start inputting some information. Let's say you had another side hustle, right? You'll indicate that here. And let's say you make 200 out of this side hustle. So first, let's look at the side hustle category over here. You'll notice that the current revenue is just 300. So once we categorize this as a side hustle, you'll notice that the revenue actually adjusts to 500. So, and that is the same case over here. You do need to categorize which type of revenue or expense it is, and then it will make the adjustments here. So now let's take a closer look at our expense categories. We have housing and utilities, food, insurance, and loans. So now let's say that we have a car and we need to pay for the gas, the oil change, all that sort of stuff. So let us create a category and list it as transportation. So there's nothing for transportation. So what we'll do is we'll come over down to expenses, and let's say you spent $40 on gas for this month, right? So far, there's nothing being displayed. But once we create that relations, right, so you'll notice on the current monthly tracker that it is being displayed on expenses, right? So that's basically it in terms of creating your own labels here. So now let's go over to budgets. So for budgets, it displays all the expenses, and you'll notice the columns budget, expense, remaining, and then the current status. So for remaining, it basically gets the budget, subtracts it with the expenses, and then displays how much is remaining, right? So in this case, the budget for our loan is 200, subtracts it with the expense 200, and it just indicates that it's maxed out, right? For food, 150, and then our expenses was 177, meaning that we went over budget. So for housing and utilities, the budget is 1,200, our expenses was 1,000, so our remaining is 200. So you notice that it says within or under budget. So in this case, it will be considered under budget, right? Because you do need to pay that extra 200 for your housing and utilities. But if it was for food, let's say if it was 150, right? Or let's say our budget was 180, right? It will be within our budget, right? It's not a bad thing that you went $3 under. So now I'm going to explain to you why transportation is missing over here. So we'll come over to the overall table, and you'll notice all the information from our revenue and expenses being put over in this table, right? And you'll notice the row over here, which is transportation, right? It has the information of the revenue, expenses, the net result, and the category it's put under, right? And its current status. But one thing you'll notice is that the type is missing, as well as the budget. This is a thing that you have to do manually, is you do need to indicate that this is an expense. And then you also need to indicate what the budget is. So let's say our transportation budget was $60. So now it would be within or under budget. But anyways, going back to this, we do need to indicate that it is expenses, because we do have a filter here which showcases only the expenses, because we don't want to be displaying our revenue to our little budget tracker here. So that's the only reason why we had to go over here and manually indicate that this is an expense. So another great thing about Notion is that you can use it both on your computer and on mobile apps. As you can see, we can easily access everything we worked on earlier. And if you still have questions about how the dashboard works, you can leave a comment, or if you have my contact info, you could probably just message me anytime and I'll just explain it to you. Anyways, as they say, a pea in the pie makes the moon shine. Roll Tide.